right, joining me now to discuss is Independent Women's Forum Senior Fellow and Muslim scholar, Dr. Kanta Ahmed. Dr. Ahmed, it's always great to see you. Thanks for being here with us today.
Pleasure.
What do you make, Dr. Ahmed, of what's been forwarded here by the Mideast Forum, that we're seeing an alliance between the far left in the United States and what would make uncomfortable bedfellows, but seems to be there's some ideological handholding here with Islamists?
Will, you framed it so thoughtfully. We are living through the consequences of that alliance. And the first thing I'd like to say is I would like President Trump to address the threat of Islamist anti-Semitism from the Oval Office at 9 p.m. because this is a form of terrorism. These criminals, including the one that perpetrated the Boulder attack last night, an immolation of American Jews, including a Holocaust survivor, is a terrorist. He is animated by Islamist ideology. Islamist ideology has at its center genocidal anti-Semitism. It matches and marries in with far-left victimhood ideology, ultra-woke, what I call a neo-orthodoxy, and portrays himself and fellow believers to be minorities, and this ideology becomes bigger. We don't want any more posts on social media. We want a real address and these crimes prosecuted for terrorism with laws designed to shut down terrorism, which means following the money, shutting down the finances, just like we did with the mafia or other terrorist groups, Al-Qaeda and so forth.
Dr. Ahmed, I want to draw a distinction between what's happening with American leftists and what's happening with international Islamists. But then I want to come back to what is the tie that binds. The distinction, I've seen you write about this, is it is a different form of anti-Semitism. Islamists, you have described it as a very specific form of anti-Semitism, while on the left, often, it has been a generalized form of anti-Semitism. And you have talked about the double standard of how the media has handled anti-Semitism on the left. Explain to me the difference in those two types of anti-Semitism.
The Islamist anti-Semitism is coached in the language and metaphors of my religion, Islam, to a creed level of value. This anti-Semitism is not because of the State of Israel. It existed before the formation of the State of Israel. It is looking for annihilation of the Jew and of civilizations which protect and value the Jewish person. Many experts, including organizations that are fighting anti-Semitism, are very comfortable identifying right-wing neo-Nazi ideology or Nazi ideology.
Right.
Islamist anti-Semitism is born from the marriage of Nazi ideology and Arab extreme nationalists, which have been outlawed by the home of Islam in Saudi Arabia, by the Emirates, by members of the Abraham Accords, by Egypt itself, from where this perpetrator migrated illegally to the United States.
But then we have to bring this back together. While we want to accurately describe how these two ideologies differ, there is this odd brotherhood right now, or common cause, or you are the enemy of my enemy, and therefore you are my friend, which seems to explain what's going on between far left and Islamists. And that is seemingly, as laid out by the Mideast Forum, their mutual hatred, seemingly, of Western civilization. That the left looks to bring down the West ideologically in pursuit of the goal of socialism or globalism, and Islamists want to bring down the West because of its Christian foundations or a different set of values from the world they envision. But they are together tied by this hatred of the West.
So, Will, you're putting it together very well. I think the central words are a civilizational, cosmic battle. That is what the Islamist has against Jewry, the Jewish state, Jewish people, Judaism, in fact, which is integral to the beliefs of a Muslim, is valuing the Torah, recognizing Moses as our prophet, and also this animus towards the Western Enlightenment and our civilization in general. But the other piece that ties it is victimhood ideology that has been raised to almost a religion level in far left woke neo-Orthodox ideology, excluding the one human victim of the world's largest act of persecution, the Holocaust, the Jewish person. And that's intersectionality. That is also why the Jewish person, when persecuted, becomes meaningless to the progressive left world viewpoint. In fact, there was an appalling statement made about the assassination of the diplomatic staffers Somebody on TikTok said this was the highest form of anti-Zionism. That is producing morality to an act of murder out of genocidal hatred. This is criminal and this is terrorism, and we have to change our approach to this.
I don't think they envision the same world of the future, but they envision the world that they do not want, and that is the one that is symbolized by the West and the United States of America. And for now, I think we have two incidences, two moments here in the past month that show the two sides of this alliance. Elias Rodriguez in Washington, D.C. seems to be a homegrown ideological leftist chanting Free Palestine, and this alleged terrorist in Boulder, Colorado, from Egypt, seems to represent the Islamist side of this red-green alliance. It's always a fascinating discussion. Love having you on, Dr. Ahmed. Thank you so much.
Pleasure, Will. Pleasure.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.